Cottonmouth Meteor.
Long story short, I ended up getting arrested for working at that delivery service.
You guys got raided?
We got raided. I had cops pull me out to my car in handcuffs and pull off a tracker off of my car and take me into jail.
The Bonkasturu.
Baby girl, you're so damn fine, though. Wanna know if I can hit it from behind, though. I'm sipping on you like some fine wine, though. When it's over.
Yo, cannabis lovers, welcome to the Boncast, a podcast about people in cannabis. My name is Matt Meredith, and I am your host, your guide, whatever you want me to be, really. And today, on the third episode of the Boncast, I am very humbled to be able to present Angela Mazzanti. She is a cannabis model, influencer, and event host that also is a rapper now, based in Southern California, and I had an awesome conversation with her that I know you're going to enjoy. We bring, hopefully, a lot of value and get a more of an inside look to another person in the cannabis industry. So, without any further ado, please enjoy Angela Mazzanti.
All right. Well, welcome to the Boncast.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I want to talk to you, obviously, about your awesome experiences that you've been having, especially lately. I want to get updated, but we'll start kind of from the beginning. Just like we can start off by you introducing yourself, and doesn't necessarily have to be about cannabis right now, just a baby bio.
So my name's Angela Mazzanti. I have been a model for about like 7 to 8 years now, specializing in the cannabis industry, and worked my way to being a host, worked my way to being a brand ambassador, and now working my way into more so creative directing for brands.
Awesome. What initially got you into the cannabis space?
So funny enough, when I was 19, I went into the Air Force and wanted to be in the FBI, wanted to be a cop, I smoked weed, but it wasn't like a job. And back then, it wasn't like a job to anybody. I feel like social media wasn't really where anyone was advertising or anything. So I went to the Air Force, got there into basic training, was there for a month, and was like, I just don't think this is for me. I started having panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and previous heart problems started coming up. So I was discharged on medical leave. So I got out of being in the Air Force.
So that's an honorable discharge?
Yeah, it was an honor. It wasn't a dishonorable discharge because it was medical. I had previous medical records of heart problems and stuff. So they kind of were just all right, there's not much we can do.
Right. Why the Air Force out of all of the... Because
it was the easiest branch that I had heard of. It was the basic training wasn't very intense, but you still you got paid a lot better from what I heard, and there were more job options. And it was just a little bit easier strength and training wise.
Yeah.
Then following after that, I got back, and my plan was to do modeling more so, and ended up trying to move to San Diego. Got all the way down to San Diego and got a call from my mom, and she was pretty much like, oh, your dad's in the hospital, you need to turn around and come home. Literally the day I was moving. So I picked up my stuff, turned back around, and thought it wasn't a big deal, but he ended up passing away. And I feel that was really where it clicked in my head that I don't want to work a regular job. I don't want to be a regular person. It's not me. It's never been me. And I kind of was the life is way too short to worry about working a 9 to 5 and to not be happy with what I'm doing with my life.
Totally.
And cannabis has always been something that I've smoked since I was probably 16, and at that point it was starting to transition from just oh, you buy weed off your dealer and whatever. Dispensaries were starting to become a lot bigger, and the whole idea of sessions and expos and events were coming into play now, and it was becoming more of an actual business. So funny enough, me and my mom were working the same job too, and our location got shut down, so we were both out of work. And I was okay, if I'm gonna do this, this is a sign now that I need to do something with my life, and that I need to change things up. I'd already been making money off modeling, but side money, so I was what can I do to further all of this?
Make that your main source of income.
Exactly, and to be happy doing this and be comfortable doing this. And ended up getting hired by a delivery service. Long story short, I ended up getting arrested for working at that delivery service.
You guys got raided.
We got raided. I had cops pull me out to my car in handcuffs and pull off a tracker off of my car and take me into jail. And pretty much, like, I wasn't in for very long because I was just a driver. There's a lot of, like, speculation on that story because, like, there are a lot of people in the industry from Northern California who will say I'm a snitch. But that's a whole nother story, I guess. I see a lot of people still bringing it up after like 6 years, but it's kind of hard to be when you have a tracker on your car. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I was like, well, like...
Wait, so let's back up
okay.
a smidgen. So you said they took a tracker off of your car.
They took a track. Apparently they had been tracking me for about like 3-4 months.
And so people are blaming you that you were doing that willingly, knowingly.
As far as I know, like, I don't know if people just don't know the story or anything, but that was definitely, like, a big scary moment in my life. And then to have people you care about calling you those names, like, especially being in the cannabis industry, like, it's not something, like, anyone takes lightly.
Right.
At that point, when all that happened, my mom got really scared, and she sent me to live with my sister in Fresno. And that's kind of when, like, I just really got tired of, like, I need to move to Southern California. Like, there's no other place to be able to do all this stuff. Like, and if I was already going out there probably like once a month or once every 2 months, doing like modeling work and like working with brands and then like doing like events and sessions. So I ended up making my move down to Southern California and lived in Santa Ana for a while. And while I lived there, I was kind of like, I went to a bud tending job, like a legal one, and went there one day, trained, and was like, I can't base my hours off somebody else. Like, what if I get a gig booked or something like that? So for a couple months, I definitely like struggled. And that's when I started doing sessions. So like, this is like back, I think the sesh was called, it was Above the Clouds Fest. It was like in the Valley, and I started working out for a booth for 805 Oilers.
Cool.
Which now, like, they've become, like, a larger brand. Like, there was a lot of, like, large brands back there, but in such small booth sizes. Like, Moxie, who else? Vader. And everyone was, like, very close and cool and everything for the most part. Because these things were so small and they were so very frequent. Mm-hmm. So I kind of used that, like, as a stepping stone to, like, I like doing sessions. I like dabbing people out. I like selling product, like... I'll try to keep doing this as much as I can. Right,
interacting with people is more fun.
Mm-hmm. And then it definitely got tired. Like, being a female in the industry, like, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of males in the industry. Right. And so you do tend to get treated differently if you're, like, a booth girl rather than, like, you owning your own business.
Totally.
So I got tired of kind of, like, being the booth girl because, like, I hated doing things like passing out flyers and, like, going and doing stuff like that.
You were doing busy work.
Yeah. And I was like, I think I'm built for greater things than just handing out flyers to somebody and, like, being a girl in some skimpy clothes.
You're not a hostess. You're the badass waitress.
That's right. So that's when it kind of segued into like being a booth girl to like being an event host. I had gotten asked by a friend of mine who was starting up a sesh to be a cannabis host, and I was like, well, I've never done this before. I don't mind public speaking so much. I'll try it. Like, worst case, I hate it and I just don't do it anymore. Was crazy nervous, but working in the cannabis industry, like, everyone is so inviting, and like it was a lot easier than I thought. Like, I prepared like whole scripts and like everything, like, and didn't use anything that night.
Right.
Loved cannabis hosting though, and that's what like brought me to keep doing it for that sesh for a whole nother year. And then that all segued into like doing like the bigger events like High Life, like you came with me to,
right.
And just like High Times, all the other ones, and now transition into today, and now I'm like still doing a lot more like brand marketing and like advertising for brands on my social media because I do have a large following. Not a lot of cannabis brands can advertise outside of Instagram. So how
many Instagram followers do you have now?
Right now it's at 529,000. So like a little over 500,000, which is crazy. Like,
which I feel like is like you're one of the top 10 influencers then in the cannabis industry, yeah?
I
Like,
would-
as far as like numbers is.
Numbers for sure. I mean, I know I don't post as much cannabis related content as I used to, but a lot of people know me from that industry still. But my biggest fear is getting deleted like a lot of these other people have.
Right. Yeah. No, that's interesting. I had a question about being a female in the industry, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll circle back to that in a second. But, I mean, I think that's good that you're not straying away from the cannabis industry, but involving yourself in like more industries, obviously, you know. A year ago when I was doing my taxes, like his number one piece of advice was be versatile, have a dynamic range of types of clients in a variety of industries, because a recession is like either currently happening or it's like about to explode, you know. And so being prepared for like when, let's say, you know, cannabis industry, you know, obviously right now I think is a difficult time for people to sometimes pay for ancillary services because they're paying for so much to make sure that their business can stay alive.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because like you have the legal industry where all the legal companies aren't making the money that they thought they would because of the
Right.
California laws, and trying to also convince like these black market companies, these who are like essentially trappers. That's like kind of how they started things, was like doing things underground.
When you say trapper, what is that?
Like basically like somebody who would sell weed essentially out of their house and stuff like that. Like they don't have a mind as much for like advertising, marketing, and business as like to them like paying for somebody to post on their Instagram might be silly.
Right.
But we're in an age of social media, and you think like, what's everybody looking at every point of the day? Like, how else are you going to sell your products? Like, and especially in this industry, like you can't put a commercial. Like we tried to put a commercial
Right.
on the Super Bowl and it got denied. So it's looking at those things like, okay, where can your company flourish and like do things correctly?
Right. I guess that's a good point. Like from this point until hypothetical federal legalization in, I don't know, within the 4 years maybe, like until that point, right? Like how, this is a real question for you, how should companies be advertising?
I mean, Instagram right now is the biggest thing, and like YouTube is a really big thing. It is somewhat hard to advertise on there because a lot of people get deleted and whatnot. But I feel like if you build your brand correctly and you build the name correctly and you leave it to be stuck in people's heads, no matter how many times your Instagram is deleted or anything, like people are still going to remember that brand. I do think like packaging is everything too, because and like the quality of your product, like by word of mouth of people. You want you want somebody to recommend your product basically based off of their experience with it, and there's a lot of things that go all into it, but it's a very hard.
So just making sure that people are consistent on like social platforms. I mean, that's how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because like I think for your point, you know, getting deleted off platforms. And so like I've been thinking, okay, well, what content can I be putting out as a cannabis brand that wouldn't get deleted, that wouldn't show that my page is even smoking, you know? Because I'm thinking about, okay, how do I make videos that are creative and entertaining on YouTube, but that don't show any smoking, similar to how like an alcohol commercial wouldn't show any drinking. And so that's where my content I'm trying to do on YouTube. And I find it interesting that not everyone, but like people complain about getting deleted off of YouTube. And then my first question though is, what are you putting out?
Exactly. If you're putting up stuff of you like hitting a bong clearly and like doing
Right.
stuff like that, like it's not advertisable. And that's why like there are some other influencers I've seen promoting bongs, but like there's no water in it, there's no weed in it, nothing. And like the comments are generally bad because people are like, oh, you're not even smoking, blah, blah, blah. You're not
Right.
even using it right. And I think a lot of people don't understand the guidelines for what is allowable, but at the same time, it's not like Instagram is looking over these profiles. Generally what happens when you get deleted is like multiple people have to report your page in a specific time frame. And once that adds up, it notifies Instagram to like, hey, we need to shut this page down. So sometimes it's not always like what you're posting. Sometimes it's
People coming after you.
people coming after you, whether it's other businesses or people who just want to see you break down, which is why I feel like it is so important to have built that name. Like, I'll use LA Kush as example. If their Instagram got deleted today, it wouldn't matter because so many people already know that name.
Right.
And they'll be looking for them on Instagram if they go get deleted. It's happened to me before. My page got deleted once, and my second backup page that I made after that grew so fast, like 100K in like about a month. Just because like because I built a brand name around myself, and people want to see that. And I feel like that's really what brands need to like do. It's not just post like cell phone pictures of weed on their page or just like flyers whenever. It's being structured too, like being consistent with everything, like being consistent with your content, because like at the end of the day, like if you get deleted, all the pictures from photographers and professionals who have like done your stuff will live on the internet regardless for life, because people share that stuff around. And
I think too, it's like what value are you providing with your content? Because that's the main thing that I feel like I try to focus on with my videos is like, I think the video that's done the best that truly does not show like here's how to do something explicitly is like our video where we went to High Life, and it was like filming with Angela, but it was because I was filming with you, with someone that has a reputable brand that, you know, has an audience that people are interested in, right? And so like that's why that vlog did well, I think. And so, but like everything else only gets views if I'm providing a specific type of information to people, which I feel like entertainment, a lot of cannabis influencers can get lost in the sauce, literally, of just like, here's the fat dab glob, you know, or here's even just like, here's something unique about, here's me smoking in a unique way. You know, I did a video about like make a bunch of different pipes out of food, which is like, I think that's providing value, but still to an extent, it's like,
it's providing entertainment.
Right. That's really what it's doing. And so I think it'll be interesting to see, okay, where's the entertainment line? Because I think, who's this, Matthias 710.
Oh yeah,
he's
I know who you're talking
super
about.
funny, right? Like he does dumb shit, but like he does funny stuff. Like I think what he's a comedian,
and he's unique with his stuff. Like he's definitely not doing like the same video over and over again. I think that's where people get comfortable in what they're posting and leave it at that. And I feel like that's why some people's pages don't grow. And no, like I see models who post the same kind of stuff. It goes for any industry really. Like I see models who post the same kind of like butt shots and stuff every time, and it's like, but their page isn't growing and they're wondering why.
right?
It's like, well, you need to expand what you're doing.
Right. And I think to that point, I have so much respect for your page and like the type of modeling that you're doing, because you're not sitting there and saying, here's my ass, here's my body, here's this, here's that. I feel like you're focusing on like helping the brands that you're working with, and they love that. And then you're putting out just like, you have your kick-ass go-to poses, and like you're really selling brands. You're not selling like, here's Angela's body, you know, and I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you. I mean, I definitely didn't always used to be that girl. Back when I first started, I would post a lot more risque stuff. And I think that's what really like grew my following, but people stuck around because of how I am as a person, how I portray myself, like, and just how I react to other people. And then also the content I create for brands. Like I see a lot of girls like doing like selfies with brands and stuff like that. And I don't feel like it's fair to charge a brand for something like that when it's not a lot of work.
Right.
And I mean, like, the goal of getting paid for this stuff is to make the brand happy, like keep the brand happy, and like create good content that they're going to be happy with, and that it's out of their hands. It's like, here's all your stuff, here's all our stuff, do your thing, and just whatever.
At this point, are brands asking you to just do your Angela whatever you want, or are they giving you specific direction?
Very rarely have I had brands, like, they'll suggest like specific things, but for the most part, like, they just want my own creative twist on it, like whoever I want to use for photos. It's pretty much all left up to me, which, like, I'm trying to start getting a little more creative with it. But it is hard when you're shooting like branded stuff that, like, there's only so much you can do. Like, I had one girl say something on like one of the brand posts that I posted a couple of days ago, and she's like, oh, just like your tattoos, like all your photos are tacky and boring. And I was like, well, how many ways can I make like a case that interesting?
Right.
Like, I mean, I can make a video, I can do different things like that, but like to showcase a brand, it's very standard. Like,
right.
So, I mean, my goal is just to like get these brands in front of the eyes of as many people as I possibly can.
How I guess transitioning away from that, I want to talk more about like your hip hop and your rapping.
Oh yeah.
What so you released a song obviously in the last when did you release it again?
It's been since October because I
Okay.
know it was like right when we moved that like
It was like right around when we did that video.
Yeah, it was very close to that, and it was just like, all right, like we're ready to go. But it had been something we've been working on since beginning of last year.
Cool. And so it was Rick Ross was featured on the song,
Yes.
and I saw the music video.
Yes.
Which I loved, by the way. It was totally. I was like, that's Angela.
That music video makes me so sad now though because
Really?
like I don't know, and this is a whole completely different topic, but we just had one of the girls who was in it, who was a big cannabis influencer and model, to pass away.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And like now watching that video makes me sad, but
Yeah.
like at the same time I'm happy because she got to be a part of it.
Right. I'm sorry to hear that.
I know, it made me all sad. But no, like the music thing has been crazy. Like
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do music since when I was in 4th grade, I started playing the saxophone, and then like 5th and 6th grade was playing the drums. And when I was like 16, 17, I was in a metal band,
Sick.
like did screamo stuff.
We're good.
And transitioned to when I was like 19, I started like joke rapping because I would get booked for music videos, and like all these guys were talking about like, oh, bitch is this, bitch is that, like I get pussy, blah blah blah, but like I get money. Like a lot of these dudes did not have a car,
Right.
like did not have a girlfriend or anything, like we're not good looking, and I was just like, how can you rap about something you're not really about? And like, why am I in your music video? Like, this is a waste of my time. I can do this. I feel like I can do this so much better.
They're putting on an act. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I was in the beginning of like my videography career. I started working with my buddy because he was into rapping, and we made a couple music videos. And he always is like, let's get more girls in the videos. Let's get more money in the
Always.
videos. Let's get more money, more girls, more cars. And I'm like, do you have any of that stuff? Like, you're poor. You have a girlfriend that you like keep awkwardly breaking up with. And bro, you ride horses. Let's just highlight that, period.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let's just do that.
Like, let's make it be what you're really about. And I think a lot of people getting into the music industry don't understand like how much money really does like go into like a good production.
Totally.
Like if you're looking at artists like Tyga or like Future or somebody like that, like there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that go into those productions. Like it's
Right.
not cheap to be a rapper unless you have like some investor backing you.
Right. I thought it was funny. There was a photo of it showed Kanye when he was worth like $1 million, and he's got all this ice on him. It's just like they got the sickest looking clothing, and then him worth $100 million. He wore just
Very
plain black T-shirt, nothing else.
Because that's not how you make money. And like let's be real. Do you really think a lot of these rappers are spending $20K on like a bracelet or like
I
how
think
many? To
The
extent?
only one that I feel like truly is like 2 Chainz.
2 Chainz. I feel like Trippie Redd actually does like spend his money. Like these artists who are getting big hits
Right.
obviously are spending money on this kind of stuff.
And then people who are also being good business people too, because like 2 Chainz doesn't just rap. He invests.
Yeah,
he has companies.
he's got money in real estate. He's got money in like tons of other businesses.
Right.
Like and I feel like that's really the way. Like that's what I want to do is like if this rapping thing does blow up or anything at all, like I want money to invest in properties and like
Right.
I don't want to be stupid with my money and spend it on like a bunch of. I see this being very popular now is glorifying like buying brands like Gucci and Louis and Supreme and stuff like that, and it's like you can't get your money back for most of that stuff most of the time.
Right.
A lot of it doesn't hold its value or increase in value over time. Some stuff you might like purses and whatnot, but like why not invest it into something you know is going to grow your money?
I agree. Kind of like where we've been going is like, what's your goal with all of this?
My goal with all of this, because obviously like I don't want to be a model forever. Like it's not definitely like once I have a kid, like I'm cutting out a lot. Not that that's coming anytime soon.
Ooh, there's
just
that
gotta
scoop.
just gotta throw that out there. Not happening anytime soon. My goal is to get more into like creative directing, whether it's for music videos, whether it's for brand production, marketing, social media stuff, like, and start managing girls to kind of get where I'm at, because like I'm about to turn 27. Like I know I can probably keep doing this like within to like my like early 30s. I mean, there's still like room for like other stuff after that, but I really want to start helping girls who are starting in this, who don't know what to do, who are afraid to work with men, because there are a lot of issues that do come awry when you're working with a male manager, or that I've seen at least. So I just want to provide like a safe space for girls who are starting out to be able to get into this and like hit the ground running. But it's hard too, because it takes hard working, driven people.
Right.
So it's my idea now is to start getting into creative directing, so I can start getting a hold of everything and then start doing the research on what I need to do to become a manager and how I can best help other people.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're definitely set up to be a good manager. You have a lot of connections. You have respect from brands. You have experience in the industry. You're probably, you know, if you manage girls that are in their early 20s, you're just going to be like, yo, I've been where you're at.
I know exactly where it's going.
I think that'd be a great route. And I think it could be really lucrative too, especially in a growing industry like ours. And once, you know, because like that's for me, I keep thinking, okay, what do I want to be like when it's federally legal?
Yes.
Whose attention do I want, and what do I want to be known as?
Because then like legal? Once everyth's federally legal, it's like the game changes. Like if you can get in, like, and when actual commercialization advertising starts, like billboards, TV, everything like that, it's like you already want to put yourself into the position where you're the person that they're calling because they can see everything you've done and that you're known for creating that kind of content.
And that's why it's so interesting, because it's like, okay, who are the creators that I like, that I want to emulate? And I found that when I'm 100% just like honestly myself, when I'm not trying to like be a certain way that I like, I feel like that's the content where people really fuck with it. Where they're like, dude, Matt, you're just like this goofy, kind of funny guy that also makes cool videos. And so I think that whole thing I was saying about like not smoking on camera, like my YouTube channel, I'm gonna get to the point where it's like the last video I posted was like how to clean a grinder, no smoking. And so if I can monetize my content up until federal legalization and say like genuinely like there's no inappropriate smoking on my YouTube channel, think about when federal legalization happens. Because then, one, I think lenience will increase obviously on that platform. And if my content can be monetized, everyone else is getting deleted off of YouTube.
And they get tired of
YouTube
it. Exactly.
Because also I'm gonna start producing more now. I think about like for the WeedTube and for High Times platform, because I think smoking on camera is entertaining still to people in the industry.
Oh yeah.
But there's that audience that I want, that I think is going to be lucrative, is all the people that don't smoke that are gonna smoke. And what do they want to watch? They're not gonna watch Dingleberry take a dab glob to learn how to take their dab.
No.
They're gonna watch a video by Allison Clark that's really fun and entertaining and genuinely nice, and like to the point where anyone could watch it and feel comfortable. I'm thinking, okay, grandma. How am I gonna get grandma to like all my videos?
But also like those are the people I feel like who are going to spend the most money in the industry because of that. And I mean, like I get intimidated when I'm around a bunch of influencers. Like I smoke every day.
Yeah.
But I don't smoke like crazy. Like I see some of these, like I can't do a gram dab. And I get very intimidated being around some at times of like these influencers who do that kind of stuff, because I'm like, do they expect me to? Or like, do other people who are watching me expect me to be like that? And like, I get afraid to like get that high.
Yeah.
I like being at like a good level, like not too crazy or anything. But I do feel like it's pushing pressure on like these younger kids who are seeing this stuff, because then they're thinking like, oh, that's like normal. Like that's no big deal to take like that big of a gram dab. And then like you have somebody who like ends up in a panic attack in the hospital or an anxiety attack because they can't handle something like that, which has happened to me.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, to your point, I like when I traveled with Trippy Trees too and saw you at Santa Rosa, and I was like, Angela's not smoking very much. And I was like, that's cool though, because I have this internal struggle all the time, like, Matt, you need to smoke less. You know, like I smoke every day, but I'm with you that like I know that my productivity and my mental wellness is like so much better when I'm not just like constantly taking rips.
You know how hard it is to try and be on stage and talk on stage to a bunch of people who are all stoned, and to be high yourself. It's like it's you're in your head very much, and like
Right.
I know there's some hosts that can do it, definitely. Kudos to them. But I lose track of what I'm doing, and like I like to have a lot of energy on stage, because like I feel like people would get bored if I was like, "Hey, everybody!" Like,
I think you're setting a good example though by not being like, "Hey, look at me. Here's all these dabs. Here's me smoking a fat blunt. Here's me smoking 5 grams a day." Mm-hmm. I think encouraging that to what you were saying is like these younger kids that, you know, I mean, like 18 to 23, like you're a kid, you know, like you don't know shit, and to watch all these people that are taking so much into their systems, where honestly I haven't seen any case studies of people who take rips like that on a consistent basis for 30 years. What does that do to your body and your lungs?
and we don't know what possible health problems they might already currently have.
Exactly. And so like I think encouraging that is bad, you know. I think those are the people that are going to get deleted long term. Mm-hmm. But
that's why a lot of those people's pages get deleted. Like, you don't see, like, I don't know, you don't see people who are just posting like small inserts of cannabis getting deleted very often. You see people posting like glob videos every day, like bong hits every day.
It's like, how do you expect the government to be like, yeah, let's make it federally legal?
Because you have to think, like, they're seeing this stuff, like they know what's going on, and like to assume like, well, I don't know if we'd want that federally legal.
Yeah, I was an education major at Cal Poly, and my first, like the last video, it was the first video I like really made, and it was about being a positive male role model. It was like my first YouTube video ever, and I was like, I wrote like 7 essays in college about how to be a positive male role model within education, and why it's so important, like psychologically for kids and stuff, about kids who don't have a male role model in their life, and why like just having a male teacher that was a badass for 1 year could change their life. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the same in the cannabis industry. If we're setting examples now, like this is how to be like happy and smoke weed. Like, what's his name? Who's the guy with the big beard? He's a cannabis influencer. Why am I blanking on his name? But I can't remember his name right now. But he, Strain Central.
Okay, yeah.
He is a huge advocate for mental wellness, and something I'm like, oh, I don't know. But for the most part, I love what he's doing, because I think he's encouraging healthy smoking. Mm-hmm. Because I think, like for me, I've definitely fallen into depression by smoking too much, like getting in my own head. And I think I had zero. I didn't even know what it was like to be depressed before college. Couldn't even fathom or empathize with anyone that was like that. And then, you know, college happened, I smoked a lot more weed, life gets stressful, whatever, you start to experience it. But when you're not smoking, like if you don't need cannabis and you smoke recreationally like me, I only smoke recreationally, but it turned into smoking recreationally so much that now I use it for medical purposes at the same time. And so it's like, I think being honest with that, I don't talk about that.
I feel like it's easy to be like, oh, I need to smoke before I go anywhere. I need to like,
right?
Because you start getting in that habit.
Oh, I have like 2 hours to go and drive. It'll be way better high. You know, it's just like, oh, I gotta, and then you get in the habit of like needing it for your appetite, and then like my friends moke or I don't know, call it moke or
the mukbang.
No, not moke.
Okay.
Why mole, or like where you put tobacco and weed together.
Yeah.
And so like in college, I did that a lot, and a lot of my friends, like all my friends back home, still do that. And it's like it's so unhealthy for you to put tobacco on top of it, and then that, oh my god, totally confuses your body, because tobacco is an appetite suppressor, and then cannabis makes you think you're hungry, so you get hella hungry, and then you get food in front of you, and then you literally eat one bite, and you just like, you're not hungry, and you can't put it in your system because your body is super confused.
Yeah.
And so like, if you moke out there, you should stop.
It's probably not a good thing. No, I took a year off, and like I was to that point where like I felt like I needed it all the time. I felt like I needed to smoke before I did anything, before I took a shower, before I got ready. Like I took a year off and realized like I really don't need that. Like I don't need it. Yeah. It's not anything like, and I feel like that was a really good point for me though, because like I got to see how I was without it, and it really, like the first 2 weeks are the hardest, but I've transitioned to like just doing CBD, and then like found my right dosage of THC. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what's very important in like learning everything about cannabis, is knowing like what's right for you, because like edibles don't work for me, but I know they work for other people. Dabbling doesn't work for me, works for other people.
Right.
For me, it's flower. But I'm not a huge fan of like, I can't dab. Can't do edibles at all. So
How often do you smoke now?
every day. I'm back to every day. I'm definitely starting to get back into the habit of like, oh, let me just hit this before I go, which it's been easier since I've been like traveling and doing a lot of stuff that like I
Right.
don't have as much time for it. But I've gotten so used to not having it that it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Do you want to blaze at the end of this?
Of course.
Cool. Figured I'd ask. It's so funny though. My girlfriend's main piece of advice when I started doing this was, please do not smoke with your guests beforehand, because
Oh, God, no.
there's so many podcasts about pot smoking or related to cannabis where the tangents, like we went on a few tangents, but it's all still within the realm of like the things I wanted to talk about. But whoa, I've seen some that it's just like
Completely
what are we
off.
talking about now?
Like,
Yeah.
you don't even know like where the conversation's gone. Like, some people just don't like look high very well. Like,
Right.
super red eyes, super small, and
Oh,
like
I have the worst red eyes. I am at.
see, I don't get it bad, and like, whereas I can smoke like during a shoot, at the beginning of the shoot, and be perfectly fine because my eyes don't change. But I've definitely worked with girls who like they smoke before a shoot, and I'm like, hey, you should probably just wait till after, because like
You look bad.
not bad, but like your eyes are red as
Right.
fuck. Like,
Right. No, I have like the worst case of it. I carry eye drops everywhere I go because I will look like a total idiot if I smoke at events. And like, I definitely got in the habit of where it was like, sure, yeah, I'm like videoing. I don't give a shit. I'll smoke. How do you think Prop 64 net, like the net outcome for businesses, you say is good overall
no.
or bad?
I think it's bad because our tax is so high, so it's hard for, like, you have to think as a consumer, like,
Right. Okay. That I was gonna say that too. Like both as a business and a consumer for you.
for, like, going into it as a consumer, do you think I'm going to want to go to a dispensary, even though, and I know many people do this, even though, like, you know what's in there, you know what, like, the products that are all in there, like, are tested or safe for you, there's no pesticides, there's nothing that could be deemed harmful. Do you think I'm going to go pay $100 for, like, that kind of weed versus, like, I could go get an ounce from, like, my homie who, like, I know his stuff's good,
Right.
but I don't know, like, what it is or anything. Or, like, I see a lot going around, too, with, like, fake carts. And these carts are, like, wholesaling for, like, $10. But it's, like, realistically, like, that's why they're fake. The price point on them, like, you know when something's fake and what's not, because you know how
Yeah.
much it's selling for in stores. So it's like, being a consumer, like, are you really going to want to spend that little bit of extra money when you only have so much to spend on weed already?
Yeah.
No. And I from what I've heard too, like, they're going to fix the taxation law and everything, but being a business, like, it's hard because it's like, now your product you have to go through all these steps to even get it into the shops,
Right.
to manufacture and distribute it. Spend all this money on licensing and all this stuff to be compliant, and now, like, your company isn't making money because
There's no
because
profit.
people have somewhere else to get it from for cheaper. So it's like, should you have stayed in the black market? Should you? Because it's like, I feel for these brands who spend all this money to, like, be legal, and I have a lot of respect for them. And it stinks that because of Prop 64, a lot of these brands aren't going to thrive until things are fixed.
Right. And only the people with a shitload of money right now are the ones
Exactly.
that are
And
making
even
any
then,
money.
like, it's like, yeah, you have a lot of money, but you're not making it back.
Right. I feel like if anything they're losing money
Oh,
because
completely.
they just have enough to sustain them. Right.
Well, now you're having products sit for who knows how long, and, like, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, there are expiration dates on everything.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's expiration dates on everything, whether it's edibles or
I guess that makes sense though.
flour and everything. Like, even though, like, there are ways of keeping it lasting longer, but, like, you have things like carts. Like, a lot of these carts that are sitting in the shop are now, like, testing positive for metals because they've been sitting there so long. At least that's to what my understanding has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, like, I go to my dispensary that I know is not completely compliant because they got good ass prices. Mm-hmm. I bought
And that's why they have good prices.
I bought an ounce before the Super Bowl for $160 for a product that they sell for $35 an eighth, that in another shop would go for a minimum of $45 an eighth, and realistically would probably be sold for about $50, $55 because it's pretty good looking. Mm-hmm. And so like the amount of money I saved by buying that, like, and they had an extra 20% off for whatever reason, and it's just like the amount of money.
Why would I go to a regular shop?
The amount of money, yeah, I'm saving on that. It's just like, why would you do it? As a consumer, that's dumb to go to.
And I
another
think
one.
it's partially the problem because a lot of like business people who don't understand the industry think like people have all this money to spend on weed, and realistically it's like, no, like a lot of people don't have that much money to be able to spend on something extra, like, or like if it's extra to them, if it's recreational. I know there are a lot of medical people who need it, so it's like, where's that line where they help out or begin to help out? Like, because some of these people who really need it, I don't know, their money's going to insurance or whatever, like
Things they need to pay
things
for.
that they need to pay for, and it's like not everybody. Rent's already high enough in California, like.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Okay, just a couple last question here. You kind of talked about it, but what's it like to be a female in the industry right now?
So being a female in the industry has definitely gotten a lot better because there's more females, and we are in 2019 where like I feel like females don't take shit anymore. But back in the day, like it was mostly, as far as I can remember, like females were more used as like booth girls and like eye candy and stuff like that. And not taken as seriously when it comes to like business. Mm-hmm. Whereas like now, like you have women who are launching huge companies and doing very well. So they're definitely, I don't know the words for it, but it's not the easiest thing. Growing in it, being a female wasn't always the easiest thing. Now I feel like it's very easy to be a female if you do it right.
Would you say at this point it's good? It's good to be a female in the industry.
I would say so.
Because that's how, at least for me, what I've been witnessing in Southern California is a lot of female strength and a lot of women-only events, which has been awesome for the people that are networking at those events are creating these incredible, connections, and I feel like they're creating a lot of steam and headway for just confidence future and moving forward in the industry. I think that's
I
huge.
feel like there's more things as a female you can do because you can have these medicated spa days, you can have
totally that's like
these like female driven events,
totally, and I'm like,
but you can't do that as a guy.
I can't go to these
well, like what kind of event would there be for like, I feel like if they tried to do just guys, like people would like create an uproar, like only guys are allowed.
I think today's political atmosphere would be bad to do an all guy event.
Oh, completely.
But to that point, I think there's totally like, there could be a really good event where it's like, yo, it's only for men, but it's to show, like, to express empathy. Like you've actually really want to talk about this was Gary Vaynerchuk. Mm-hmm. Like he obviously is a huge advocate for pushing empathy in business, and like I think a lot of men in the industry need to be taught that.
Yeah, definitely. And
there's like, even just in my small interaction, I won't name the company, but there was a company that I was taking photos of all their glass. They actually were not this solely, but they were selling glass online. So I was taking all their photos for it. And like the guy drives a Tesla when I'm picking up the bongs, and I know he's like heavily invested into real estate and like doing well for himself. Mm-hmm. And he was just totally stingy on like, I told him my price, and then he didn't try to rebut and say like, oh, could we do this instead? He just said, oh, I'm just going to talk to my glass manufacturer and have them take the photos. So then I was like, okay, well, I can do it for a little less and we can negotiate.
Yeah.
So I can do that. And then we did it. And his empathy though was so slim to none. And he just like, I could tell he just didn't give a fuck about me. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm just using this vendor to use this vendor. But then to the point of like what you do with brands, establishing relationships and making them happy, they're going to come back eventually.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I just got an email from someone that I worked with 6 months ago. Haven't talked to them a lick since, but like did good work together, and like everyone was always been happy when we walk away. So now I have another opportunity. Mm-hmm.
And I think like that, because I will get people who try to like, oh, well, can we do this instead? And I think it's just about holding your ground, because like a lot of brands will try to, hey, we'll give you product if you post stuff for us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, like that's cool, but like my landlord doesn't take like weed. So we're gonna have to figure out something else. So like it's just being firm, I feel like, about and knowing your worth. Like, is it really worth it to do it for less? I don't think so. Like, because you know your worth and you know how much goes into your work. And I feel like every time that you deny somebody for not wanting to work with you because of your price, you get somebody who's willing to pay more,
Right.
and it's more worth it. So there's definitely brands out there, like, because they don't, either their product doesn't meet my standards or their price isn't, like, they're not trying to budget with me and negotiate with me. I mean, whatever. Like, I have about 10 other companies that I can work with, no problem, who won't try to, like, negotiate stuff with me. But
No, you're totally right. I think that goes for like any industry and any business person.
and with having empathy, I think, like, they're just, I think it's a personal thing too. Like, I think some people just have it and some people don't, and it
Yeah.
tends to go back to, like, more psychology stuff. And
It can be taught, but it totally is like has to be practiced, and it has to be a kind of inside of you. Don't want to be that like, that nice, I guess. We can start to set up smoking if you want. So this will be like unofficial now, but thank you again for being here. This has been amazing. I'm really excited to release this.
Me too.
Yeah,
Always
I'm
excited.
almost at 1,000 subscribers now on YouTube.
Woo!
I'm gonna make
Let's double that.
I'm gonna make a Patreon instead of monetizing my content, and so hopefully people will fuck with that. And
I think they will. I mean, I see more people doing that now because they support the creators that they want to see do well. Do you want me to get a bong, or do you have something?
you can get a bong. I have Kush though, so it's on me.
I hope you guys enjoyed this third episode with Angela and myself. I really felt like we made some great points and talked about some really, relevant things that are going on in the cannabis space. We talked about some good shit, if we're being real. I thought it was a good conversation that we had together. I'm excited to see where Angela goes with her career as 2019 continues. If you want to see an extended version conversation of this, don't forget to check out my Cottonmouth Media Patreon page. It'll be in the description of this podcast. And thank you again, Angela, for having me in your space and being on the Bongcast. I really do appreciate it. Thanks again for listening or watching or whatever it is you did to this podcast. But I'm glad you did it. Seriously. But hopefully you will be here for the next episode. Cottonmouth Media, yo. We out. But otherwise, yo, I'll see you guys in the next Cottonmouth Podcast. Peace.
Yeah. Baby girl, you're so damn fine, though. Wanna know if I can hit it from behind, though. I'm sipping on you like some fine wine, though. When it's over, I press rewind, though.
Baby girl, you're so damn fine, though. Trying to know if I can hit it from behind, though. I'm sipping on you like some fine wine, though. When it's over, I press rewind, though. Alright.
Cottonmouth Media.